son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. This week we head to Bristol to the bull ring, baby, for the Food City 500. We've got 500 laps of crazy action. Stages are going to be set at laps 125, lap 250, and then we race all the way to the finish at lap 500.
That was a great intro, Poppa, but I think we got some business we got to settle first that we had last week. I believe there was something in the effect of if Sticky Ricky, there was some chugging going on with some Sunny D, if I remember correctly, and I think you lost the bet, brother.
Okay, yeah, and I did, and I did guarantee that I would chug a Sunny D and do the whole show, so you were right to call me out. By the way, dude, it's been so long since I've drank Sunny D that they don't have the peel tops anymore. It's actually a screw top. But
Nice.
that will not help.
Themselves.
That will not help my endeavor, as I have to finish this all in one chug. All right, so Sticky Ricky, you were doing me right for the whole race till like 20 laps left.
Right.
Here's to Sticky Ricky and me betting on him and losing money and now having to chug Sunny D.
Now you're gonna have gut rot. Chug, 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 chug.
Oh God, it is still the syrupy goodness that we remember from the childhood. Goodness, I can feel the diabetes setting in as I chug that, dude. Like, Wilford Brimley, where are you?
Oh my God!
Check your blood sugar and check it off, and there's no reason not to.
I have not had one of those in probably over 20 years, and now I can tell by the reaction on your face why I don't drink that anymore.
Oh, sweet Jesus. It is a good thing they are not a show sponsor, because that would have been a struggle.
Oh.
All right, so now that I've done that, all right.
Now you got to start over because that should have been the first thing.
All right. Dude, it's sitting heavy already. This is going to be rough. All right, I'm glad I didn't go for a bigger jug of it. Jeez.
You have to do the big boy like I was thinking you were talking about.
Oh, man. All right.
Horrible.
All right, let's try it from the top. All right. Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We head to Bristol to the bull ring, baby, for the Food City 500. 500 laps of crazy action. Stages are at lap 125, lap 250, and then we go all the way to the finish at lap 500. All right, Liehr, it's your turn.
Interesting fact here at Bristol. In the last three races here, the winner has come from outside the top 10, 24th, 11th, and 18th. The previous four races to that, the winner came from the top 5, 5th, 1st, 5th, and 1st. The trend is going to continue this week, and the winner will come from outside the top 10 again. Will it be from the number 13 spot to be exact? Guess we'll see tomorrow.
And with the weather, there's a 100% chance that I'm going to regret chugging that Sunny D here in a little while. And there's a 40% chance of thunderstorms starting at 9 a.m. By noon, there's supposed to be a 90% chance, and by 2 p.m., they're saying 100. NASCAR also saw this weather report and decided to get racing started an hour early to try to get it in before the rain. However, I doubt significantly that this will have any effect on the race, and I'm pretty sure we're going racing on Monday. But if for some reason they're able to get some laps in, expect a rain-shortened race, and you might want to adjust your strategy appropriately to compensate for that. Wow, Liehr, I am fighting this, man.
I was going to say, and there's a 100% chances there's going to be a shitstorm coming over Big Poppa's house.
Oh, jeez. Wow. All right. So we got the bet out of the way. This is fun. We may need to do this again.
Hopefully you didn't eat too much today already.
No. I prepped knowing that this was in the cards. Like, oh, wow. All right. I'm going to take a drink of water. All right. Now.
Please.
All right. Aside from our craziness, NASCAR has given us its own version of craziness yet again this week, as we have Harvick starting dead last as the most expensive driver. That's right, kids. He wrecked his car, decided when they went to the backup that they weren't going to qualify, and at 11,500, I'm fairly certain he may be required to be on the winning lineup, but the amount of money he costs with putting a dominator on your lineup is just creating a quagmire of uncertainty for your lineups. You have to really free punt when you put both of those guys on your lineup. What do you think the ownership percentages are going to be this week on Harvick? The best driver in the circuit, starting from the rear of the field, but costing $11,500 there.
Well, giggity. I think it's going to be kind of a tweener, man. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, anytime that you see a guy that's obviously been on the best team this year, been the best driver with 3 wins under his belt, coming to a track like Bristol, which it's can be hard to pass here, but starting at the rear of the field, but he's the highest costing driver. I'll be honest with you, man. I definitely think he's going to finish in the top 10, but by the time you throw all the place differential in there, and then, not having any dominator points, I mean, he's going to get some, with fastest laps, stuff like that, but that's going to be so minimal that I'm going to disagree with you here, brother. I'm going to tell you that you shouldn't own Harvick tomorrow, because you're going to have the dominators in your lineups tomorrow and some lower costing place differential guys. And where his salary is, being the highest costing driver, if you start with a Harvick and Kyle Busch, you are severely hindering yourself from putting together a more of an optimal lineup. So I'm going to say, do not roster Kevin Harvick tomorrow on your teams, because I think that based on his performances, yes, he's had a top 10 finish the last 5 times since he's been here at Bristol, with winning it back in 2016. But still, with the place differential points and the amount of salary you have to spend to get to that guy, your dollars are going to be spent way better on other drivers if you avoid Harvick tomorrow, because I guarantee you he's not going to be a dominator that's going to get over the 500 laps, is going to get any laps. I mean, he could have some minimal laps led when they're the pit strategies come into play, but I guarantee you he's not going to pay off tomorrow based on his salary.
Man, I don't think that that's a guarantee at all, and the only thing that I'm willing to guarantee is that I don't think I'm ever going to chug a Sunny D again. That was awful. And
I think too, I think just everybody's going to be all over him because of where he's starting at. But I'm telling you right here, right now, his money and where he's starting, this is not the type of track to have him, to own him and to have him be a fantasy play. If this was the case at like a different type of track, like last week over at Texas and starting from the rear, then we'd be talking a different story. But this week, where laps led are essential, with dominator points, and you needing to at least have there's going to be at least 2 dominators, and you having to have the 2 dominators on your lineup, avoid Kevin Harvick this week.
Yeah, see, I think he's going to be under-owned, which is crazy with the guy starting last. But I think a lot of people are going to do exactly what you're saying and fade him because of the price and because they are uncomfortable with the drivers that they have to sandwich in the lineup with him. It may be a chance where you're getting the best driver in the field starting last, sub 50%, which would be absolutely absurd. Now, I'm usually a bit off on my ownership percentages, but I've seen multiple people out there that are respected players that are talking about fading Harvick this week. And that is dangerous, and I'm worried that more people are going to be fading Harvick thinking that they're going to be in the minority when that is maybe end up being the majority thing to do, is what I'm saying.
Even last week, brother, you and I talked about it after, lineups locked and the races started. Where he was at last week, he was under-owned. He was under 50% owned last week, and he was in a dominator position at Texas to lead laps, which was the case where you needed to have him, you needed to own him. But this week, it's a different ball game, different race, and different strategy. So,
well, I mean, you have him be in a top 10 car, man. If you have him getting to the top 10, don't you have him possibly leading some laps? And even if he doesn't, just the gain from 38th to top 10 gets him 30 plus
let's just say 10th,
points.
Okay.
Right. So
that's 28 points.
Right. Plus
the
finishing
position points. He's probably going to maybe be between 65 to 80 points.
Well, fair enough. The closer you get to the 80, the
guy that's going to win is got to have 2 dominant drivers, both that are going to have more than 100 and probably 120 20, 100 points each. Because there's no way you're going to be able to put Dominator 1, Dominator 2, and Kevin Harvick all in a lineup without having to super punt with, like DJ Kennington and LaJoy and guys that you don't want. So that is not the strategy you want to roll with this week.
It could be the working strategy, though, as we saw a ton of carnage in the Xfinity race today. The top line wasn't coming in, and if it rains, I doubt the top line comes in quickly at all, right?
Wash away
all the PJ1 track compound that they put on to make it stickier. All right, Liehr, we got the Harvick situation out of the way. We're going to tackle the other crazy situations coming up.
Maybe they need to put some Sunny D on that track.
It's definitely thick enough and sticky enough to get it done. All right, Liehr, it's time to burn some rubber. Do the honors, buddy.
Burning rubber! Bristol, baby!
Nice. All right, bro, who do you have to burn some rubber for us this week? Clearly, it's not Harvick, in your opinion.
It is not Harvick, and I am not going to be going with any of the other picks towards the top, where historically here at Bristol, you've got to have, like we've already talked about, at least two dominators, and most times it is two guys that start in the top 5 here at Bristol that usually dominate the race. Not saying that they finish in the top 5, but they hang up enough at the front to where they lead more than 100 to 150 laps of this race, and sometimes even 200 laps in the case of the guy I'm about to talk about. But I'm going to be going with Eric Jones in the number 20 JGR car. Jones is coming off a great race last week in Texas where he led 64 laps and was in contention to take down his first Monster Cup win with a 4th place finish after starting from the 21st position. And he was a must-own play last week in lineups. But this week he comes back to a track where he had his best race last year as a rookie when he got on the pole here. And I believe, if memory serves me correctly, I think I had him as my burning rubber pick that race too. And somebody else bet me actual money that time and said that he wasn't going to do that. I think I won some money from that as well too. So,
hey, the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund got good money from both of us.
Oh yeah, that's right. We donated it to that. That's right. But this week he comes back to a track where, like I said, he had his best race as a rookie last year, and he led 260 laps that race and finished second. He's going to be starting 13th tomorrow, and in my opinion, the momentum that he gained last week and coming to his best track from last year this week is a recipe for fantasy greatness, and is going to be an awesome race to see him tomorrow in that number 20 at Bristol. He was the fastest in second practice today in the 10-lap averages, and his price this week is $8,300, which is up from $400 from last week, where he was $7,900. So with Rowdy being on the pole in his salary, and Kevin Harvick, which we just talked about in his salary, it's going to make it difficult to get these mid-tier guys into your lineups this week, in my opinion. But he's a must-own play, and you've got to make room for this guy and put him in your lineups here. He's going to get a lot of those dominator points, in my opinion, tomorrow with his place differential on top of those dominator points. He's going to be a must-own play tomorrow. Play Eric Jones in the number 20 JGR car tomorrow, and maybe some other drivers from JGR tomorrow, but definitely play Eric Jones.
All right, man. I think this is a good time to do it because I don't really have any arguments against Eric Jones or the play, but you made a good argument about salary being a restriction, and I think this is a good time to talk about two of the other drivers that I think also have the ability to lead laps, possibly also have the ability to be a top 5 car, and are in that weird price range. I like Hamlin at $9,500,
yes,
like starting 25th. I also like Truex starting 26th. But like you said, the issue is salary. You have to pick and choose these guys. You're not going to be able to put Harvick with 2 of these guys or 3 of these guys. Like, that just is mathematically impossible for you to get done. And you're definitely
already losing from that perspective because you're losing out on the guys that are starting in the top 5. They're going to get, at least in the first stage, all those dominator points.
Right. And that leaves off my burning rubber pick. I know he's in the Skittles car, not the M&M's car this week, but I still have yet to get that sweet Skittles fitted hat. Rowdy at $11,300 has 6 wins at Bristol, 9 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and he's led 2,115 laps here. He will be extremely high owned, probably at 70% plus, but I don't think it'll matter. History shows that the pole sitter here usually leads 100 plus laps. And after Kurt wrecking his car and heading to the rear, the car that starts on the outside will be Kez. And the outside line has not come in yet, which means Rowdy is going to lead the first chunk of laps of this race. Now, to be fair, you have to go all the way back to 2013 when they were racing here in March at Bristol for you to find success for Rowdy in that spring race. He finished second and only led 56 laps, so he doesn't have a real strong history of dominating the spring race. So, I don't know, Liehr, if you were going to strategically try to fade someone, would Rowdy be the best fade? That's the thing. If you're fading Rowdy, who do you have as a dominator? That's my question.
Well, as far as Rowdy here, this is the track that Rowdy owns. He owns property in Bristol, Tennessee, and it's shown by his numbers. This is the most wins that he has on any track in the circuit whatsoever. 6 wins. This is the most at any place that he goes to. So obviously, and all that success came before 2011. So it's been a while. You know, his last win came here, this last race here in the fall at Bristol. But before that, he's had some rough times. You know, he's had a 35th position, 35th finish, 39th, 38th, 36th, 29th. Those are all starting in the top 10, but most of those are all due to crashes, which are unforeseen. You know, but I'm telling you, I love Rowdy tomorrow. I'm going to be playing a lot of Rowdy tomorrow because I think he's just going to go out there and dominate. And this is the Rowdy that you love to see because he's coming off a win from Texas. He's got that monkey off of his back from having to have pressure on making the playoffs. The guy's automatically in, and this is one of his best tracks, man. So I think he's going to take that momentum and transition it into tomorrow. And he's even swept here at Bristol before in the past. So obviously he didn't race today. I'm telling you, he's going to be one of the dominators tomorrow. I don't think he's going to win the race because I think his teammate and Eric Jones is going to win. But I think he's definitely going to be one of the dominators tomorrow when it comes to fantasy points and your fantasy lineups tomorrow. But if I had to choose somebody else that in that top 5 that I would say could possibly take him over, or even the top 6, I'm not going to go with his brother, Kurt Busch. Obviously, he's starting from the rear. So then you got Brad Keselowski. I haven't been confident in Keselowski yet. Those guys haven't shown it yet in 2018. Sticky Ricky, not going to be going there, even though he does have the Sunny D on his car this weekend. And then you got Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney is an interesting play here. I think he's going to be overlooked by some people. I'm going to have some exposure on Blaney. But then the other guy that I think could be the guy that does that is Kyle Larson.
Yeah, I mean, the favorites seem to be Kyle Larson from what I've been hearing chatter-wise from most people as the guy that most people would pick if it's not Eric Jones or Rowdy.
And he was, was fastest in second practice today as far as, speed goes. But, and Larson's got some great recent history here in leading laps as well. So I think it's a good play. But again, comes in the salary question of how are you going to get all these guys into the same lineup?
My question that I'm having when I build my lineups this week is how much stock do I want to put in one dominator or 2 dominators or try to do a 3 dominator versus how I want to set that up this week. And I've been leaning towards the 2 dominator aspect because that seems to be the highest trend here. But man, it's so much easier to build your lineup if you only try to roll the dice and go 1 dominator. But man, that is not statistically what happens here at Bristol. And that is dangerous.
The statistics of us only having 1 dominator and that person be the one person or the one driver that you put on your lineup even shrinks your percentages down even more. So,
well, right. And it's one of those, if you can get lucky enough to pick the right guy from the middle of the field or back that's also going to lead laps as your stats at the beginning of the show showed, great, good luck. And you can pull it off doing that, I guess, but if the race breaks down that way. But it's a very dangerous situation, especially with all the carnage that happens here to try to nitpick those guys from the middle of the field and hope that they're going to end up leading laps for you.
And the crazy part too, man, is I know that last week during our show, we talked about, I even said, I think that there's going to be, after the Xfinity race, that I thought there was going to be more accidents and stuff that we couldn't predict happen last week at Texas. And that actually came to fruition. And it was, Truex going down with a tire and Larson going down with a tire. So there was a lot of guys last week that you were just like, can't believe they all wrecked. And I have the same type of feeling going into tomorrow as well, or Monday, that we're going to get the same kind of thing happen to where We're going to have some guys. It's not going to be because of weather. It's not going to be because of a tire issue. It's just going to be because this is Bristol, baby. This is where, guys like to take other guys out, and it's going to happen tomorrow or Monday.
As you guys can tell, this week is super tight with salary. So we're looking for some value plays, and it's also a little bit chalky this week. So we're looking for a couple plays that may not be necessarily the chalk or the best of value, but kind of fit in that category. Liehr, who's a guy or guys that you're looking for value this week?
All right, brother. This week I'll be taking a driver that, we really don't give a lot of love to and don't have the opportunity to talk about a lot in this show. But we do give him some shout outs every once in a while. But this week, we're rolling with a guy that's mixed play probably amongst a lot of fantasy owners this week. But going with David Reagan in Front Row Motorsports number 38. Reagan will be starting from the 23rd position, which FYI drove the number 23 last year. But he decided to go out today and lay down the fastest lap in happy hour. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God. I mean, when was the last time we saw David Reagan at the top of a practice chart? But
never.
Exactly. But this is a driver who's been around for a very long time. He's got 22 starts here at Bristol. Obviously doesn't have a win. He's got 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s. His average start here is 24.3 with an average finish of 25.4. But in his last 3 races here, his worst finish was 23rd and his best was 17th, which was in the fall here last year, in which he started 19th. So for a driver with this much experience, a good track history, and his cost is only $5,400. So he's the next tier guy above all those other, low-end guys, the LaJoys, the Reed Sorensens, DJ Kenningtons. He's the next guy up at $5,400. And he's going to be an opportunity driver to stay on the lead lap and even maybe just go 1 lap down. But this is your chance to get a top 20 driver at this kind of salary. This is the only driver. And for this week, Reagan should come with a pretty high ownership percentage. It's definitely warranted, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think people are going to overlook him because of that 23rd starting position, and they're going to go with guys that are higher than that. But those guys haven't showed the speed, and this guy was number 1 on the practice chart today. So give the guy a chance, give him an opportunity, going to save you some salary, going to give you those chances to get the higher costing drivers up top. And obviously, too, I just want to give a shout out as well to the Pete store, which is Peterbilt, giving David Reagan a sponsorship this week on his car. Congratulations to those guys. They picked an awesome week to do that, and hopefully it'll pay off for him this week with a top 20 finish for Reagan and the guys at Front Row Motorsports. But I'm definitely going to have some pretty good ownership on David Reagan this weekend.
Yeah, and we saw his teammate McDowell have an awesome finish last week. I absolutely have zero issue with the Reagan play. It's the right play, in my opinion, especially for salary relief. Another one that is the right play, and I can't believe we actually get to do this for a change. Oh, yeah. That's right, kids.
This is after a week where we talked about he's never going to have a chance of doing the Bain train.
Well, right, except the Bain train actually came away with a legit finish last week, and then he goes and qualifies 33rd this week and is just starting from the rear, and his teammate, Sticky Ricky, at 7,600 is starting 4th, showing you the potential of the car Bain's in. So let's talk about Sticky Ricky first. I'm going to give you a Roush Fenway Racing twofer here for value. Now, I realize Sticky Ricky 7,600, and he's starting 4th, but 50% of the time he finishes with the top 10 here, and 30% of the time he's finished with top 5s. He also has 2 second-place finishes here. As somebody that will go completely overlooked this weekend with him starting 4th because he doesn't lead laps here, it might be an interesting way for you to pivot and make unique lineups by throwing Sticky Ricky in at 7,600. Now, after chugging the Sunny D and letting that sit on me for the whole filming of the show, that may not be the best idea. But that's the way it always feels when you roster Sticky Ricky, because one time he's in the wall, the next time he's got a top 5 finish. You could get a really good driver at this track and have really low ownership percentage on it. But I have to be honest, it's going to carry with it a huge amount of risk. But the main reason I wanted to talk about Sticky Ricky is really to show the indication of Bain's potential. Bain's last 5 finishes here are all indicative, in my opinion, that he's going to be a required play this weekend. He has finishes of 15th, 5th, 12th, 11th, and 7th in his last 5. All of those give you the place differential plays that you need at a guy that's only 6,000. Now, I realize he's been a hot pile of garbage this season, but I think they turned it around with that 12th place finish last week in Texas. I think we're finally starting to see Roush Fenway right the ship. What is your opinion, Liehr?
Wow, a Roush Fenway twofer.
Yeah.
No, I mean, dude, Bristol by far is the Bain Train's best track. With his 7 races here, he's got the 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and 5 top 20s. Best track by far underneath his belt in the whole circuit is Bristol. And then he goes out and gives you a 33 qualifying position. I'm right there with you, man. No brainer pick there. I think he's going to come with a massive ownership percentage, but ownership percentage be damned, because if he performs, then it doesn't matter. So I'm right there with you when it comes to Trevor Bain and the Bain Train. As far as Sticky Ricky, it might be an interesting play for you to put him on your roster, especially starting from that 4th position, because I think you're going to get him. What do you think? 10% or less?
I would guess less than 10% owned. That would be my guess.
So if he sticks around and stays right there, and actually, who knows? Could he be one of the dominators that leads 50 plus laps,
right,
and then have a top 5 finish? I mean, it could happen. Because this also is one of his best tracks as well. So, but I agree with you, man. I think we're coming to a place where Roush Fenway actually has an opportunity to, shine this weekend, and hopefully that is the case. But speaking of shining, I also got another value guy that I didn't talk about, but I definitely want to shed some light to. But that's Chris Buescher and the JTG Doherty guys that have been performing above average this year so far. And Buescher's been a pretty darn consistent source of fantasy goodness overall this season in 2018. Last week he finished 15th and has also scored 30 plus or more fantasy points 3 times already this season, which last year and the year before that, I mean, we weren't looking at him hardly at all. But this week at Bristol, he comes to a track where he surprised fans a few years back and had a top 5 finish here after qualifying 12th. And, everybody in that situation would have said, well, he way overqualified in that 12th position, and he still went out and finished with the top 5. So he's a much better equipment this time around, being with JTG Doherty Racing. And you can tell that he's getting very comfortable out there with the best of the best in NASCAR week in and week out, because he's starting to perform a lot better. And I think out of that garage, I think he's the better driver definitely than AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger is just a specialist at, the road course races and the smaller flat tracks, but he'll be starting tomorrow from the 22nd position, and his practicing today in both sessions in the top 15 and 12th to be exact. He should provide the same tomorrow during the race, and with his salary of only $6,100, I think he's going to be a bargain play this weekend and a swerve play for sure for most of the fantasy players out there. I think he really gets overlooked this weekend, and most will be concentrating on the other drivers that we've talked about already. The Bain Train, and even Ty Dillon in the 32nd position, even though that car's not been going very well at all. And then some of the other lower tier guys. But I think if you play Buescher this week, he's definitely going to pay off for you. So I'm going to have some exposure on Buescher this week for sure, brother.
No, I like the Buescher play. A lot of people will say he's already overqualified, but I think you addressed that argument really well. I think 2 other drivers that we haven't really talked about that are place differential guys, they're not really necessarily value plays per se, but they're not guys that should traditionally dominate this race, are Jamie McMurray starting 31st at 7,000 and Ryan Newman starting 30th at 8K. These are other guys that, man, you really want to be able to squeeze in your lineup this week. But
it's like, can we start 8 guys this week, please?
Can I have unlimited salary and be able to play 8 drivers? Yeah, that's where I'm at. I like both of those cars this week. They're both way underqualified. I'm trying to find ways to fit as many of these guys that we've mentioned onto lineups this week as possible. And that's the difficulty I'm having and finding this week. Are you seeing the same thing pretty much?
Yeah, brother. I mean, that's why I'm like, avoid Harvick like the plague, because you're going to get a lot more value at a lot more drivers this week compared to what you're going to get from the one driver that costs you the most salary. So, but yeah, it's been touch and go, bro, to get the guys you want and try to maneuver them and get them in there. So it's going to be an interesting week this week. I don't think we're going to have a lot of parity this week, so that'll be great.
Going to the Garage is everybody's favorite segment where we talk trash on drivers usually. Sometimes it's on DraftKings. This week we both agreed after looking at the contest offerings from DraftKings that we both wanted to send DraftKings to the Garage this week. The problem is DraftKings is, first of all, not paying us to promote their product, so I feel zero issues with calling them out when they do us wrong. The problem is they're increasing the rake on us players yet again. We're looking at rake of 14 to 18% on some of these contests. That is absolutely absurd. That means we are paying more money from DraftKings and we are actually getting less. And I want to explain what I mean by getting less. Look at the contest that they placed this week. They used to have a 3-entry $20 tournament, 3-entry max. That tournament paid out $2,000 last week. This week, it's $33 for a 3-entry max, and it only pays $1,000 to first place. So I get to pay $13 more in entry to win less money. Now, I understand the field size is smaller, and that's a legitimate argument. But if we look at the Xfinity race today, there was a $27 contest with 100 fewer people in it that pays $1,200 to first place that costs less money. I don't understand the logic here. I'm tired of DraftKings giving us poor offerings. And Liehr is even more upset about the big boy contest. Liehr, take it from me.
I mean, to go from where we started at the beginning of the year with, what was it, $100K to first place? And
right,
yeah,
at an $8 or $9 entry point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was $8 to enter it, and it was $100K to first place. And by the way, All Stars, congratulations, man, because you got in at the right time and did the right thing there when you won 160K, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago or whatever. But now they've shrunk it to an $8 entry when it comes to the Beast. And there's only 5,000 people in it instead of whatever, 45,000 or 50,000. And the top prize for that entry is a whopping $3,000. Now, I get it that you've shrunk the field to 5,000 people, but then you went ahead and substituted it with a 250K gladiator. And I'm sorry, I skipped a step there because then 2 weeks ago you stepped it down to $50,000 to first place in that beast. And then now you've implemented this 250K gladiator with 50K to first. Oh, but yet you've upped my entry fee from $8 to $20. And granted, I know that the field shrunk from 45 or 50,000 down to 14.7 thousand. But still, none of the other contests are even remotely close to being something to where you can have an actual great payday when it comes to playing fantasy here. So it's like almost the only tournament that you have an opportunity to win a large chunk of money is to play the Gladiator. And then the other one is, I think there was a $4 tournament this week. And then you've substituted with a $4 140K Chrome Horn with 15K to first. But again, it's the lottery of 41,600. So where's the consistency here, DraftKings? I don't know what you're trying to fish for or what you're looking at, but you're going to lose some people over this, man, because I'll be honest, I'm not going to be playing that much this week as much as I used to play because it's kind of all over the place. And to get into the tournaments that I want to get in, I've got to spend, more money, which I don't want to do that because just like a lot of people out there, I don't have the disposable income to just all of a sudden, throw it all over the board here. So I'm definitely sending you guys to the garage this weekend. And don't quite understand where you guys are going with all this. And increasing our rake, which is BS. This is one of the most up-and-coming sports. And you guys got to give us some credit here, because a lot of the tournaments that you have or that you post, a lot of them fill, and they were filling back in the past when you had better payouts. So when you start shrinking payouts and you start increasing rank, you start losing some fans.
And there's got to be a point of no return. The amount they increase in rank, they lose people, and therefore they negatively lose money. And I think we're reaching that. I mean, for me to play the tournaments that I normally play, because of what they've done this week, it is literally going to cost me almost double what I normally play. And I'm playing for less money than I even played for last week.
Right.
And how with the same number of entries are you going to charge me double to win less? That makes absolutely no sense. DraftKings, you're going to the garage. And to be honest, like, if we didn't have a following and a show where I really cared about representing, like, playing every week to prove that I put my money where my mouth is, I would honestly take this week off from fantasy. That's how upset I am with DraftKings. But I love Bristol. I love this race. I love fantasy NASCAR. And I just...
Well, and that's the other thing that we talked about too, is this is Bristol. Why are you doing this at Bristol? We're not, having a competition with the Masters like we did last week. Like, why are you doing this week? I just don't understand it.
I don't either. So DraftKings, you're going to the garage. This is egregious, man. And I'm tired of them taking advantage of people that want to use their platform to play fantasy NASCAR or fantasy sports in general. And they just keep taking. Remember, the poker sites tried to do this before it became illegal. Some of them did. And they started dying because of it. Because at a certain point, people decide that it doesn't make sense to pay you 20% every time I want to try to play a game. Right? And we're getting close, man. Remember when it was 11% and now we're at 15 and 18? And 11% was 11 and 13 was the high end. This is just getting out of control. And I feel like we're not getting the quality of a fantasy package that would denote paying more money for it, right? Like, if you're going to charge me more money, I better get a better product. And I'm not getting that.
No, it just keeps getting worse and worse.
Well, speaking of worse and worse, the Sunny D's hitting that part of my digestive system where it's time to wrap up the show this week. So we're going to go ahead and wish everybody best of luck at Bristol. Liehr, go ahead and say your goodbyes. Let's win some money this week. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Liehr, get us out of here.
Man, the Sunny D must have hit his head, too, because he forgot to mention the winner of the league last week.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and do
that. Congratulations to Chris 36270, which is one of our buddies that follows us out of South Dakota, Chris Loran. And his old man plays in the league too. So we always appreciate you boys watching every single week. And congratulations on the win, brother. Last week he had Kyle Busch with 117 points, who was a must-own play and got his first win of the season. William Byron, who we mentioned and talked about last week, and Poppa took him as his value play. The guy that I wanted but I couldn't take. They kept giving me a hard time about, but since Poppa took him, I had no chance to take him. But had a 10th place finish after starting 33rd, finished with a 57.75. Kevin Harvick had 104.75, must-own. Eric Jones had 80.5 with all of his 64 laps led from 21st to 4th. And then he had Casey Kane with 39 points, starting from the 28th position, and got a top 20, finishing in 17th. And the one play that I talked a whole bunch of you-know-what on last week, and he actually came through last week. Jamie McMurray started 24th and finished with a top 5, finished 3rd.
Yeah.
Scored 62.5. So grand total for Chris's team was 461.50. And before Poppa pipes in, I got to give the big man a shout-out. Last week he finished 4th, tied with Cleveland Kid, with a 377.5. So congratulations to you too, brother.
Oh, well, thanks, dude. I had first running until Sticky Ricky decided to not have brakes any longer. And
well, that's what you should do. You had to pay the piper the price on taking down the Sunny D. That's what you get for trying to play Sticky Ricky last week.
Dude, that hit me in waves. Like, the first chug, like, it sat here. And then it sat, like, here. And then at the end of the show, it's just like, oh.
Bottom dropper, huh?
All All right, guys. Enough of the effects of chugging Sunny D. Thanks for tuning in as always. Let's win some money this week. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend and enjoy the race tomorrow. It's Bristol, baby. Let's have some fun. And if it's Monday, it's Monday. But it's going to be a fantastic race. Hit us up on the YouTube page. Also, forgot to mention, we will be posting the season-long stats on there as well. And make sure you go check it out. We are in the process of trying to convert the fantasydonks.com over to rubbinisracing.com. But still right now, where you can see all the stats and everything is fantasydonks.com, where you can see the year-long league statistics and so overall standings and all that good stuff. So, but have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye, y'all.